Well, Mali Noyes, welcome to the Steep Stuff podcast. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Really appreciate the time. You taking the time to have a chat. Um, yeah, it's a fun time of the year. This is the year the running season's kind of over. It seems like there's this long layoff before the ski season, so it's always a good time to debrief the year and catch up and get to meet new folks. So I'm super excited. I did a lot of research before this one to get to learn more about you, and yeah, there's so much I think it'd be fun to talk about. Before we get fully started, maybe give me the 5 minute elevator speech on your background. Take me back to growing up in Idaho and then kind of where you're at now.
Yeah. I grew up in Sun Valley, Idaho as a Nordic ski racer. And I raced competitively and very seriously through high school. I ran cross country running too, but that was Nordic training at that point in my life. I raced for a post grad year. I won nationals, multiple podiums. I went on to race in college for the University of Utah. And then after college, I was pretty burnt out on being a Nordic skier and wanted to try being a freerider. So I started freeride skiing with my mom's hand-me-down boots and skis. Quickly, just absolutely loved it and just spent as much time as I could skiing all day, every day. While slowly working towards becoming a nurse. So I qualified for the Freeride World Tour. I won North American championships in free skiing, which qualified me for the Freeride World Tour. So I traveled there for a year, but really didn't do very well in the tour. I was just so new to alpine skiing or downhill skiing, plus just pretty overwhelmed. But ultimately, I think it was all a good thing because then once I returned back, at this point I was living in Alta, working at the Alta Medical Clinic. I then was started backcountry skiing more and more, which is ultimately the pairing of my Nordic background of fitness and love for playing and exploring mountains, and then free ride skill of being able to ski down anything. And I've sort of just gone from there and just I'm absolutely obsessed and I love skiing and exploring. And then I'd say the pairing is I ultra trail run in the summer because it's just another way of moving through the mountains. And that's ultimately what motivates me both summer and winter is to spend long days in the mountains moving relatively slowly,
We'll talk about that. We'll get into races and stuff like that when we get a little bit. I want to get into your formative years and growing up. What was it like growing up in Sun Valley, Idaho? Obviously Ketchum, that area is an amazing ski resort destination. It's a beautiful valley. What is it like growing up in a place like that?
I think it was so great to grow up there. It was just actually a community. And it's still I still go back there quite a bit. My parents still live there. And it's just I'm still right back in the community where you're the butcher and the PT knows your dad so well that when you go to him for an issue, he's oh, your dad has this issue. So it's probably yours issue too. These great things. And then I'd say Nordic skiing is really big in Sun Valley. So that's sort of once I've left Sun Valley and looked at other towns, I'm oh, no wonder I was a Nordic skier. But it's just nestled in the mountains in this little valley. So all I did was play outside all the time. And that's pretty cool. I just got very familiar with running around on single track, bagging peaks on the weekend. Everything was just about playing outside.
So cool. Now, did mom and dad kind of I don't know, put an emphasis on it? Oh, you should do this. You should try this. Did you find it on your own? How did you pick up a pair of skis? Were your parents into it?
You mean Nordic skiing?
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad played Division I hockey and then was the high school hockey coach. So he put me into hockey at a young age. And then my mom alpine skied and is river guided, and she was a nurse too. Honestly, I don't know if either of them really understood my Nordic. It's not something either of them did, or they do, but not at the level I was then committed. But I think they both understand passion in doing sports. And so it obviously flowed pretty natural, and they could see how that was pretty much what I did and what fueled and gave me direction through high school and into college.
I read somewhere that your dad was an Olympian. Is that true?
So he went to the Olympics for sailing.
So cool. So it doesn't matter like what you make it in. I just find it so interesting that I don't know, like if you get really good at a craft, it doesn't matter. It could be underwater basket weaving, could be sailing, could be Nordic skiing. I find that's interesting because those traits seem to get passed down to kids to find something that they love and get really good at it. Would you say that's something, I don't know, maybe that kind of clicked off with you pretty well?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think like both my parents are so supportive always in like any sport I'm doing, but like high school I'm living back at home, so they were like they came to all my races, always like helping me fuel or do whatever it was for training, like no question. And I guess like supportive in my accomplishments, like that was pretty recognized. And then I'd say they both like did live for passion of like living in this town and like not working jobs that make a ton of money, but instead jobs that allowed them to keep skiing and doing what they wanted to do. Um, and I think that's really apparent through my brother, who, um, so he is a professional flying trapeze artist.
What? That's so cool.
It's so random, right?
Yeah.
But basically, he followed his passion and he's made it his job. So,
Interesting.
which I think my parents must have taught us.
I think that's it. Well, and the reason I brought that up was just because I see a lot of similarities in folks, especially in the trail world, but like really in just athletics in general. Yes, you'll find your one hit wonders where people are just really good and mom and dad had nothing to do with it. But I do see a lot of people where mom and dad were really good at something else and like had this craft that they were immensely dedicated to, and that seems to rub off on their children, which I just
Mm.
find to be interesting. So
Well, and I think too, it comes back to like skill, like natural talent only goes so far. And in the end, it's the work ethic.
yeah.
And like, and how do you put in all the work? It's like when you just truly love the process and then you just get good by default, you know?
Yeah.
So it probably makes sense because if the parents live it, you live it too.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting stuff. It's like nature nurture stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I want to pivot a little bit, talking about high school to college. So you
Hmm.
obviously skied in college. What is that process like? I mean, most of the people I've had on the podcast that are at the professional level and running, usually cross country, usually sorry, cross country running, track, field, and a lot of soccer players. You're a little bit different. You're the first collegiate skier that I've ever had on. What
Hmm.
is that like recruitment process like? Is it completely different? Do you walk on? Like, how does that whole process work, especially at like a university like Utah?
Well, I guess I don't know what it's like as from the running side, but yeah, I was recruited. I talked to a bunch of different coaches, visited a bunch of different schools, um, got to know the different ski teams, and then ultimately it just came down to University of Utah. My coach from Sun Valley, I think, is just quite literally one of the best coaches there ever is in Nordic skiing, ever will be. Has been pretty influential, and he is sort of like Utah is the closest like university to skiing. Where when you look at like Denver, I think at this point in high school, I had like won nationals, was like ranked first or second in the country. Like I could pretty much go wherever I wanted to go. Um, where like University of Denver, you have to drive super far to get to skiing. Um, and so it's just sort of like deciding based on that of sort of strategically what would my priority has always been skiing in one form or another, and that was just going to give me more skiing. So yeah, University of Utah. I also really like the coach too, so which obviously matters.
Yeah, no, definitely. How was your like? Just how was it being in university? I know, especially like studying to become a nurse is not easy as well. A lot of science classes, a lot of chemistry, biology, things like that. How is it like balancing like racing at a high level, being an athlete at a high level, as well as university?
Uh, well, so it was really hard for me. I got very overtrained in college, which I think shows. I'm very type A, very obsessive and focused. And then to a default in college, I learned that I had to be more balanced and like stress is stress. And so I was like trying to do everything in school paired with doing all the training. And like then I never performed well in college at all. And it was pretty rough because I went through just like a humbling period, which in hindsight was great. But I went from like leading and controlling races to then like just trying to survive them, which I think is a great perspective to learn now or when I look back on it. But at the time, I sort of had to like separate my identity with like from just being a success, you know, like I think a lot of athletes go through that. Um, and I wasn't getting all my nursing prereqs at that time. I was sort of like, I majored in kinesiology, which is exercise sports science. I actually wanted to be a geology major, but lab classes were the same time as ski team practice. So
Oh.
I couldn't do that.
I have a geology.
Like, that's just,
I actually have a geology
oh,
degree. Yeah, yeah. That's a bummer. Geology's so much fun.
yeah. And see, that just shows like a great example of how my life has always prioritized skiing. It was like, well, ski team matters more. So
Bummer. But I mean, I don't know. I'd say nursing's a bit more practical than geology. Like I don't work as a
yeah.
geologist, obviously.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's yeah, and you forget a lot of that stuff too. At least I do. I don't know. I mean, I remember my types of rocks, but like the mineralogy
Yeah.
and sedimentology stuff, I don't remember any of that. But I'm also old, so yeah, I don't know. Interesting. So I guess I'm trying to understand when, because free ride is such a big part of your athletic background, like how did free ride kind of come into it? I think that's a really interesting story the audience would love to hear.
Yeah. I don't know if I have, well, I can just say what happened. I like had downhill skied some growing up, just Sun Valley. And my mom was always downhill skiing, but I at pretty young age switched fully to Nordic and just trained Nordic. And any off days, I was actually resting. I think we can understand that as like runners, you need to actually rest. And I wasn't going to go skiing to like go get injured. So I like, and even in college, even being on the U of U ski team, like we didn't downhill ski, you just Nordic ski. Um, but once I graduated college, having been overtrained and sort of like burnt out on all of it, I was like, I want to be like a ski bum, like my mom and a river guide. So that's how I then, I originally moved to Crested Butte, Colorado with my mom, hand me down skis and boots, and started skiing there and like progressing that. The following year, I moved back to Alta where I was able to work at the Alta Medical Clinic and then I like got invited to a free ride comp. And I really didn't know like what I was getting myself into, but it was back in Crested Butte. So I was sort of like, oh, familiar, I'll go see friends. And like my roommate at the time was like, she was going and she's like, you should come, Mally, you'd really enjoy it. I'm like, sure. I had to like borrow a beacon, a spine guard, like different things you need for the comp. I went and skied my run. And then I just went and skied the rest of the day with like the other people from Alta and free skied and didn't think much of it. And then the award ceremony came the end of the day and they're like calling them up, the girls up, like starting in 5th place and 4th place. And I'm like, wow, these girls did so good. And then it turned out that I'd gotten second. And I just like hadn't looked at the results, hadn't paid attention, which qualified me for the next day and for more comps. And it sort of just went from there. And I think the bigger piece was like I have the competitive mindset from like naturally, but also from like Nordic skiing. And then I just like truly love to ski. So like that example of that first comp where I just like free skied all the day and I just always would like try to keep up with the boys and just sort of genuinely just had so much fun. So if the lifts are spinning and I didn't have work, I was skiing. And then working at the Alta Medical Clinic meant I still skied a lot of days I was working. Like there's no patience, I was skiing. And so I think it just like you just get good at something when you love doing it. It's like, plus I am like, I think I'm pretty good at Nordic skiing taught me this, or my coach in high school taught me this of like identifying my weaknesses and then working on them. I'm pretty critical of myself, which can be hard, but also I think leads to success. So I think that's ultimately why I progressed so quickly in freeride. I just did it a lot.
It's so interesting to me. So can you do me a favor? And so the closest thing to free ride that I've like talked about on the podcast is probably with Julian Carr and his background. Can you talk about like what I think the audience will probably get a kick out of this, like maybe painting a picture of what free ride really is, the discipline, and I think the judging aspect of it too. Like how is it scored? And maybe just talk about it in general, like from a competition perspective.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So you're basically like some face that's probably pretty steep with cliffs and features and stuff. and you're judged on your fluidity, control, style, and creativity. And so, like, if you were to go and just traverse the entire face, you're lacking fluidity and lacking style, so you're going to get scored bad. If you go and crash, you're lacking control, so you're going to get scored bad. Basically, like, fast and fluid always wins. Is what I would say to myself. But so, like, skiing what naturally flowed that you can ski well. And yeah, you basically go to the top of the you scout the venue either on the venue or from visual inspection only. So you're just looking through binoculars, picking your route, and like now you need to go ski it like you totally know it and charge it, and you haven't even been there before. And yeah, and then you basically like ski your run and you get judged on that. Yeah, that's basically it.
Interesting. Would you say, I mean, when I think of places as far as to live in the lower 48, probably the Wasatch is like the best for that. I mean, at least, I don't know. I don't free ride, so, and I'm an idiot. But the best thing I would think of is that makes sense because it's the vertical relief is very unique to most places in the country. Would you say that's a great place to live and train?
Yeah, I think the Alta community is like there's been a lot of professional skiers or really good skiers that have come out of Alta. And I just like spent so much of my early years of free riding just like skiing with a lot of really good skiers. And there's so many different features and everything. Good snow. And then we'd all travel together to different comps. And like, I think I learned a lot from them in that, like, if I hit an air, I was always getting feedback, I guess, on how I could do things better or to step it up and ski better. And so I think there's like a piece of the location, but a lot of it has to do with like the crew you're with, which I think is like true of any sport. Like my Nordic years, I also had a really strong crew. The Sun Valley just develops Nordic skiers. So there's so many people that just I always had people to train with and push me, and just raises the bar together.
I want to like transition and like ask about the professional scene. Like, is it like trail running where you do good, you win? I mean, in our case, it's races. In your case, it's competitions. The scoring obviously is significant. It's a different sport in its entirety. But is the professional scene similar in the sponsorship aspect and kind of similar like that? Like, can you make a living doing this from a professional perspective?
Mm, you definitely can make a living. I think I think at this point trail running has more money in it for professional athletes, at least on a broader scale. I just see a lot of running athletes that are sponsored, and maybe don't have to work or work pretty minimally, purely off of like a few good results. Where in skiing, we don't have like there's the free ride comp scene, but that only like goes for so long. Where then it's movies and you're always having to produce so much more and storytell. And like if you look at like Cody Townsend and Nikolai Schumer, which are like now two best known skiers, they both have like really successful YouTube channels. So skiers, I feel like we are both athletes, but also like producers and directors and storytellers. And you just, at this point, you can't get away with just being an athlete. And it used to be the way you could just like get your one little star segment in a film or your one like star for your ride comp. But now you have to be so much more. So you're sort of like an influencer and an athlete and like recognizing that it's both, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
this is such an interesting aspect of the conversation too, because like I've had this talk a lot with folks lately, and you know we're in a crossroads of trail running, where trail running is almost becoming very similar. Like, yeah, you've got your gyms of the world, your Katie Shides of the world, win races, and they don't really have to have a social media presence as much. But I feel like a good amount of folks have significant follower bases, or constantly creating content, or constantly doing stuff on social media, or have podcasts in the space. They're diversifying in a lot of ways. And you could even look at like climbing, I think is probably even a better example, where most known athletes on the climbing scene seem to have like crazy like followings, and a lot of them have they're able to tell these stories via documentaries and clips and things like that. What is your take? Like, do you think that that's just the way it's got to be now? And that's just the, like, as far as on the running scene and the skiing scene, that like you can't just be an athlete anymore. You have to be a storyteller as well.
Yes, I completely agree. I think you can be an athlete if you're just the absolute best. Jim Walmsley, Courtney Dauwalter, Katie Scheid. But like it also is limiting. And so like you can have longevity if you're more than just an athlete, because it eventually like you're going to stop winning the races. So I think of like Sally McRae as a great example where like she used to be like one of the top runners, but she is now just as relevant because of everything else she does. And then you watch Western States and she's running in it, and the live feed is just yellow hearts the entire time. And I'm like, guarantee half these people are here just because of Sally. Like, and that's like actually pretty cool. So I think if we can like adjust the stigma we have against like athlete versus influencer, um, and maybe there's like a deeper piece of it, but I sort of like to look at it with like these bubbles. So it's like a Venn diagram where you have like athlete, influencer, and maybe you have content creator. Maybe that's in with influencer. I don't know. Because as an athlete, you are still influential. It's just, are you maybe more influential to the core? Like, say, I'm trying to think of someone, Caleb Olson.
Yeah.
Super influential to the core, but I guarantee you, like, my yoga instructor has no idea who Caleb Olson is,
Right.
but she knows who Sally McRae is. So there's like these different pieces, right? But I think Caleb, like, I think very highly of him, but like he needs to continue to win races, which at a certain point isn't going to happen. So if you can also like use that to be influential and sort of like in your own way, I don't know. I don't know. Now I'm sort of like going, I guess to what I was saying is too, is like, there's some people, Caleb's going to have a bigger bubble of being an athlete and a smaller bubble of being an influencer, but he's still an influencer.
Yeah.
Cause like, dude, my boyfriend wants to wear that ACG shirt. The
We
second
all,
it comes out, he's buying it.
Yeah, everybody wants
Yeah.
to be like Caleb. I get it, and he's an iconoclast
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I like his attitude, like his, because he's got some views, and he's not afraid to share them, and I appreciate that. Like, because
Yeah.
you know, it's, I don't know, that's a whole different conversation in our sport, but like, I really do agree with you. I don't know, and this is something I think is a very uniquely trail running problem, because like I said, we talked about skiing, we talked about climbing, and most of those athletes do both and do it both very well. They also get a lot of backing. Whereas like running, I'm guilty of this myself. Like I've poo-pooed on influencers, and then shit, I have a podcast also. So I guess in a lot of ways I influence, you know, it's weird.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
the influence is still part of it, but we don't need to like, influencer is just this like taboo word or bad, but it doesn't mean Caleb influences you to wear the ACG shirt. That doesn't mean negative, you know?
Right. I think organicness is really important too. Where like, for instance, like I think you do a really good job, and this is where I was going with this, was going to get into talking about YouTube and some of the projects and things that you've done. But like you're a athlete at an extremely high level and very organic and doing this really badass stuff in the mountains. And I think it's an excellent vehicle to convey what you're doing, to show that to folks, and so they can get inspired to go do big things in the mountains. I think those things work really well. I think people's bullshit meters go up when it comes to like other things. I don't know, you know, when people are just trying to sell stuff to you, where it's a little bit different, right?
Oh,
you know?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I see. Yeah, totally. And I guess that's where you just sort of have to like adjust that in your mind, or sort of like, yeah, because I'm an influencer for sure.
Yeah, we all are.
But I'm also an athlete. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know. All right. So on the topic of YouTube, Instagram, like your stuff has been really fun to follow along, and like the stuff that you're putting out there. Yeah. Talk about just like, you know, your ability. I think one, how much work that you put into it, because it's very obvious you put a lot of work into it, and just what that's been like trying to tell your story and put that out into the world.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Because yes, it has been a lot of work. And I'm always like analyzing how to tell the story better, what to share. But again, this comes back to like both my boyfriend, who is very good at marketing and like always thinking like this, him telling me to start a YouTube, and then Cody Townsend, like the YouTube king and skiing, telling me to start a YouTube. So, started that process. I'd say in the running space, like Ali Ostranger is someone who I really look to. but yeah, then I don't know. Then it's become like more practiced as you do it. And then it's just like you can do the sickest, gnarliest things, but if you tell no one, nobody knows. So you have to tell the story. And then hopefully, yeah, inspire or motivate people along the way. And I really look at like representation and how much representation matters. So being a female in a male dominated sport and just sort of like showing girls how capable they are. But I also don't want to make it just about the gender, just sort of showing skiers in general, like what's capable to push these boundaries. So, yeah, I don't know if that really answers that question, but
Let's talk about that a little bit. I find that really interesting because I mean, we already lack like significant women representation in trail running to begin with. I feel like it's even less on the ski side where I see women doing badass stuff. Talk about that. Like, has that? I mean, obviously that's a giant focus of what you're trying to put out there. Do you think that's played a role in helping? Have you gotten any feedback, like as far as inspiring others to go do epic stuff? Or
I get a lot of feedback, which is great from people that are motivated or girls seeing they can do it. Or like my PT today told me his daughter like wants the same heart glasses I have. And that's all really cool. I would say sometimes I have a pretty hard time being part of the ski industry because it's so male centric. So it doesn't really matter that maybe the bigger picture is that we should show how competent and capable women are, because along with sports and having sports and direction provides so much, like it's taught me so much confidence that I think I can carry into so many other things in life. And so I think like we know that if women continue through or girls continue through sports in high school and college, like it's going to help them with the rest of life, and the rest of our society, just by giving them confidence and purpose and direction and everything. um, but like in the end, the ski industry cares about making money. And like when it comes down to the numbers, there's the freaking CEO saying that 80% of our consumers are men, so we're just going to target men. And you're like, well, it's like this, so the chicken or the egg. If you don't target towards the women and don't show them that they can do this or build anything for them, then like they're not going to buy from you. So I think it's this like broken system that I get pretty down on it quite often. So yeah, I have to like recenter. And sometimes my why of like showing how capable and strong women are, I'm like, sometimes I have to like be like, well, that's such a big problem. I need to like shoulder it for a little bit and just like focus on loving skiing.
yeah, I mean,
So,
to the contrary, though, I think it's amazing what you're doing by conveying your message and what you're putting out into the world because it does inspire so many people. And hopefully that plays a role in eventually changing the economic system. I mean, obviously you're one person, but hopefully that, continues to grow a movement and there's more people that get excited about it, especially where you live too, the Wasatch. I feel like there's a lot of women trail runners there. And I mean, maybe there's some, a lot of women skiers as well. So hopefully that's got some crossover and continue to build a movement. And yeah, I mean, I don't really want to get. I mean, we can get into the economic stuff because I love to poo-poo on the economic stuff all the time when it comes to not just skiing but trail running. Like, it's interesting how things have become such a business in the last few years, and I feel like with the
mm,
professionalization of the sport, it just continues to get more about the numbers, more this, more that, and I don't know. It drives me kind of crazy sometimes. So
yeah, exactly. That's where
yeah.
sometimes you need to like step away and just remember you enjoy doing it.
Yeah, yeah, you do it because you love it.
Yeah.
On that topic, you have been a professional on the scene for a bit of time. Obviously, Solomon. Can you talk about that? Like, what is it like, or what was it like being on that Solomon International team? I know you got to run as well, or you got to play a part on the running team as well, going to a team camp with some of the greatest trail runners, like first ballot Hall of Famers, which is kind of cool. What was that whole experience like?
Oh, that was so cool. Yeah. I saw that Courtney was on the list when I got invited, and I was like, oh my God. But yeah, I think that was like, it was sort of a funny thing. So I had qualified for CCC. I had gotten like second at Speedgoat that year, and then I went straight over to do the like UTMB training camp with Solomon, where we basically run the UTMB loop. And my team manager for Solomon Free Ski came on like day one, showed this film of me skiing to like the whole team, like, which I was like, oh, this is so embarrassing. But then we're on the runs, and like every single person on the team like had a time where they sort of are running next to me, talking to me, and every single one is like, so what race are you racing? I'm like, CCC. And they're like, oh, do you know how long that is? I'm like, yeah. And then like, have you ever run that distance before? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, like sort of like, the skier, what is she doing? And then I think by like day 3 or 4, I was like integrated in the crew. There was no question on like if I even knew the distance. Like it was so fun, and just like, I don't know, we're talking about like how many carbs an hour, you know, like all the really nerdy shit that ultra runners talk about. And I was like right a part of it. I honestly felt like more, I just it was really enjoyable and a fun, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if many of them really understood what I do in skiing, but I could just then run with them in the mountains.
So
I think Francois got it for sure.
I've heard he's
But
an interesting guy. I've met him once,
he's
but a little bit of language barrier. Like I didn't like get a chance to like actually have a conversation with him. Like, what is he like in real life?
he has like really dry humor. So at first I thought he was just like an asshole Frenchman, you know, like the French are. And then it was actually just dry humor that I was misinterpreting. And he's just actually hilarious and cracking jokes all the time. And like we were in Courmayeur, Italy, and he's like pointing up at some mountain. He's like, Mali, did you free ride that? I'm like, oh, I actually did ski that when I was on the tour. Like, and so like recognizing that he actually like really he loves skiing, and he just loves playing in the mountains. So like, I think, yeah, I'm a big fan of Francois.
Yeah, interesting guy. Yeah, and it's kind of cool too because I feel like I'm sure you probably earned his respect very quickly, especially with your ski background. So it makes for good conversations. What was that? What is that camp like? Aside from the running, I've heard like Solomon like pulled out all the stops for some of those camps. Like I think I was listening to a podcast somewhat recently with like Lucy Bartholomew, and like she was talking about how they had like shakes like ready for you after your runs, and like all these different things like prepared for athletes that were going to race a lot of the UTMB races. Like was it pretty bougie? Like what was it like?
I listened to this podcast with Lucy as well, and it sounds like they've maybe like perfected some of it since I went. But basically, you like run the course, and they're moving your gear and doing the shuttle, and then having aid stations where all the aid stations are. Well, within reason, which I didn't really connect that until like then doing the race, and I was like, oh, perfect. I was like, I experienced getting aid here, and there's aid here. And they even had all knack products. So we were like practicing with the products that were going to be at the race, and like doing the whole thing with your gear being shuttled. It's like, it's actually a very hard thing to do without like a team. And I think oftentimes like the drive from point to point is way longer and more difficult than just running it. So, yeah. And then they have a physio that travels with you. So you always have time with the physio. They have like the shoe developers and everything. So you just sort of, you do have a lot of access in that way to really like, I think too, to that point of like specificity matters. So like to get time on the course, knowing it and like running that terrain. I think it's sort of a no brainer for the way to prepare. And then now you can see that like Hoka's doing it, and I'm sure other teams are doing it. So
Interesting.
yeah.
All right. So I got to ask the $1,000,000 question. Will you go back to CCC and check that box at some point in time?
Oh my God, I've had the worst luck at CCC. I felt so ready that year after the UTMB camp with Solomon, and I just had like a good ski season. And I am really excited to, I think a lot of people don't comprehend that you can be a skier and a runner, mostly because I think a lot of people don't like know about it. So they're just confused, and people like just aren't very open to things they don't know. But I think there's a lot of Nordic skiers or backcountry skiers that can pair trail running, which I think like Francois is an example of that. Killian is, Katie and Germain both ski in the winter. I mean, it sort of goes on and on. Martina. And so it's like very excited for that, because it's just like I have such a huge base. So ultra running is great for that. But that first year, my mom got super sick and was in the hospital like the week before the race start. So mentally, I was not like, I had already ran an ultra with like the stress.
Oh yeah.
So not good for me. And then the next year I had like massive GI issues and this like hip thing that I've been sort of dealing with. So I look forward to tweaking things and figuring it out, which is maybe to the demise of being a skier, is half my season or most of my season is spent skiing. So I'm not running all these races to figure out all these little things that other runners can do.
Interesting. I feel like you can do, I mean, it's, people do it and are really good at both. So I just find it interesting that, like, you know, the crossover is immense. So I look forward to having you go back, and it'll be cool for you to check that out. Do you think CCC? Because I think you would also be, because like if I'm looking at, just like me looking at like maps and stuff like that, like OCC like makes sense given your Speedgoat background too. Now I'm a short trail guy, so we're gonna talk about Speedgoat next, but I think OCC you would dominate as well. I think you'd have a great time there. Yeah.
You went the other direction than I thought.
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
go longer. That's it.
yeah, I want to go longer. I'm like, CCC is so runnable, and I'm like, I'm not very good at running, but I can hike really well with poles,
Yeah.
you know. So and I've sort of connected it. People can say whatever they want to say, but CCC, if you are good at Western States, you're good at CCC and vice versa. It's got a lot of vert, but it's completely different. It's not, Speedgoat is like so much just hiking and very little running except for downhill, where CCC is a lot of running. And I think I just like have struggled with the speed in CCC, but I just haven't actually like shown up to the start line actually 100%. So
yeah.
I'm mostly intrigued with going back for UTMB, because I think like this last year, with how it was so stormy and weathery and apparently like
Heinous,
whatever they're calling it,
yeah, like it was
Himalayan.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sure it was not Himalayan, but I'm sure for some people it was. And that's where I'm like, oh, well, that's like what I deal with all the time. Like I'm so comfortable in that setting. And then it just gets longer, which I think pairs really well with what I do skiing. It's just super, super long days. So,
oh, all right.
yeah.
I like maybe the full loop then. Let's hear it. I want to see it. I do want to talk about Speedgoat. It's interesting. Like you haven't become a champion yet, but
no.
but I feel like if anyone's got that course figured out, it's definitely you. Like 2 times.
Oh, thanks.
2 second places. You had a 4th place as well. Like you've had a lot of really good finishes at that race. What have you figured out that I feel like, because people get wrecked at that race. It is people have a really like struggle immensely. What do you think it is that you figured out that other people just like have not seemed to have gotten?
I think, well, so I ran the 28K, which is like my first real trail race, however long ago that was. And that was fun, cool. I don't know. And then the 50K was my first, in 2020 was my first 50K, and I got 4th. And I remember this was during COVID, so we were in like waves, and I was in the elite wave probably for my 28K result or something. And I was the only person in the elite wave with poles. And like Hayden Hawks was there, Anthony Gonzalez, like I can't remember what girls were there, but like, and I was the only one with poles. And I remember being like insecure about it and sort of being like, huh, this is weird. But then I like used them, and I'm comfortable using poles for my like Nordic background. Like I've done drills my entire life with poles. And then I was like passing people on the last climb and sort of like surprised myself with how I did. And I think through that, I've now seen that now everyone has poles except for maybe a handful of people. The majority is poles at this point. And so I think there's things where it's just like Speedgoat is sort of more of a like mountainous race and not a running race. So like being able to climb efficiently and feeling comfortable climbing and descending is what's like helped me in that way. It's also high elevation, which I think people don't pace very well for. But yeah, I think there's the big component is the amount of climbing and poles.
So 2 things to this. Like 1, I would imagine it helps immensely that you could basically train on the course anytime you want, you know, living like kind of right there. But 2, you must be immensely strong. Like, do you spend a lot of time in the gym? Like, because I just feel like from a power hiking perspective, like, I mean, obviously you have to be faster than everybody else, whether you're hiking or whether you're running downhill. So there's got to be something to it. Like, what is your strength routine like? And do you think that also sets you apart?
I despise strength. And I had to do so much strength in college that if it's up to me, I do not do strength. I now do some to not get injured, but I think honestly, the biggest thing is in the winter, I am spending so many hours just ski touring. And that's just because I love to ski. So it's like if it's good skiing, I'm going to do just massive volume. And it's like that skiing, which like Killian talks about this, but it's like it's not pounding on my body and it's not mentally fatiguing because it's like motivated by fun skiing. So I'll all of a sudden put in like a 30 or a 40-hour week with at least 30,000 vertical feet. And I'm carrying my skis and boots on my feet and my backpack. So muscular endurance, which is like, real hot topic in ultra running right now. But if you're a skier, you just literally do it all winter. So I guess I'm strong by just moving in the mountains. Yeah, I sort of think that's
it.
really it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think for people that don't live, like even for me in Colorado, like, yeah, we have the incline and we have like opportunities for climbing. But like, dude, there is nothing like the Wasatch, in my opinion, where you could just get a 3,000-foot climb like it's in 2 miles. And
that's true.
I think there's something to that where that might be one of the best, if not the best. I can't believe I'm saying this because Finn talks about this all the time. The best training ground like in the country, in my opinion, for like European style races and really just about any mountainous race. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I think that there's something to that.
I totally agree. Now, having been over to France for 2 different like seasons and running the course for CCC and UTMB, like they always talk about Europe is so steep and everything. And like coming from the Wasatch, I was like, oh, it's just like the Wasatch. Like it's so exactly to that point. I think you could be completely prepared for UTMB or whatever race you wanted to do by running in the Wasatch.
Yeah, interesting. So now we've dissected the whole thing. I feel comfortable, and now I got an idea of what makes it work. I just need like a stairmaster or something, or I need skiing. I don't know. That also helps as well.
Yeah, and I think pacing in Speedgoat because of the high elevation. I think it's a 50K, but I think you still need to pace, and I think you do see that. I think somebody can go out off the front and survive, but I think
unless you're David Sinclair, like it's going to be long.
Who is a Nordic skier? So like, yeah. Adam Loomis has always done really well there. Like,
they seem to do I mean, they're good at everything. Like, I mean, most of the men and women that come from the Nordic skiing background, I mean, I think that crossover is just immense for trail running. It just makes sense. For you, now let me ask you this: do you still work with a coach? I know you were working with Cody Lind. Are you still like being coached?
Wow, I'm so impressed. Yes,
I did my research.
yeah. I am currently not, but just out of not like structured training right now. But yes, once I'm back to structured training, Cody is definitely my coach, and yeah, I think we like collaborate a lot. So I feel like with my Nordic background, also being exercise sports science / just enjoying it, I'm pretty good at like the structure and like what works for my body and my training for training. I listen to your David Sinclair podcast as well as your one with Adam Loomis, and I'm like, yeah, we all fucking think the same. We're just Nordic skiers that like know how to train. There's so many things in ultra running that are becoming these hot topics that people are talking about, and I'm like, oh, I've been doing this since I was 13. Like, but I think Cody really brings this element of like, which I think if you don't know Cody, then you probably know Paul Lynn, and there's just this quality of this like emotional caring, and like Cody makes me more confident and sort of like helps me so much in that way. And I think truly with Cody, I sort of was able to level up in my running because it's sort of like, realized I was more capable than I thought I was.
So like with my coach, I mean, we do a lot. I'm like very glued to the heart rate stuff. Like we're very always in the weeds about, our zones, which is great because I've gotten immensely fitter by paying attention to stuff like that. Are you a heart rate person, especially because I know that's a huge carryover from Nordic?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I grew up with like always wearing a heart rate monitor. It was even like before heart monitors were really that easily available, but my coach would like assign you a heart rate monitor for the day with a heart rate monitor watch, polar watches, and then you would break it down afterwards with him and we'd look at the graph and it would be like, what were you doing here, Mally? Going way too hard or going way too easy, stopping. So like, and then obviously once heart rate monitors became more available, we all had them and we all wore them all the time. We did like lactate threshold tests multiple times a year to just get our zones dialed. Um, and then I always took my morning heart rate, which now it's like evolved to HRV is like more scientifically advanced. And now with smartwatches, it's super easy. But I spent most of my life like waking up in the morning and feeling my pulse and taking my heart rate. And I have like logs of like years of my life of my resting heart rate.
That's amazing.
All to say, yes, but now at this point, I'm like intuitive enough with it that I don't need to like wear it all. I wear the Koros armband, but I don't like, I know it and I don't have to live to it, if that makes sense. But I'm sure you're learning that where you sort of like learn
Your
the
zones.
feeling,
Yep. Yep.
but it helps you sort of figure it out if you have the number.
It's funny. This time of year is always weird too. Like we'll swing and like one day we'll get like a 40 or 30-degree day and then one day it's like 65. And it's so
Yeah.
crazy because I, always am dialed in with my heart rates. Like, so it's like your zones, I don't know, for me, it like shifts with the temperature. Like I'm always working, you're working harder, or I think this is for everybody.
In the heat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. I'm very into it. I find it really interesting. And I've always been kind of, put it this way, this is the first time I've ever done like lactate testing in the beginning when I first started working with someone, reset my zones. I've always just been kind of like aware. I'm like, okay, I think this is my zone too, but never actually like tested it because it was just off my watch. But
Yeah.
now that I've got it actually pretty dialed, I'm like, this science stuff is pretty legit. It actually works. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. I'm
Yeah.
excited for you.
Thanks.
I feel like I did a whole lactate threshold test and everything and teaching my boyfriend who's like picked up running. And it like helped him so much because then he was able to like actually run easy on his easy days and then like actually run hard on his thresholds, where now I think he's maybe finding a little better intuition, but it's like such a great baseline. And then you get to retest it and you get to improve and it's so exciting.
It is. It's so funny. I had an Alaskan Nordic skier on, Michael Earnhardt, and he's young. He's like a young guy. I think he's like 20, 22 years old. And he was making fun of all the trail runners. He's like, you guys go way too hard. He's like, we have everything in zones dialed. So a lot of our stuff is just like super easy. And you guys don't know when to go easy. And when you're going hard, you're going way too hard. He's like, it's a pretty simple calculus. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, there's a message to everybody there.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with him.
Yeah.
That's like pretty big. I feel like actually I can tell like the more novice people are, the harder they run on just easy days. Where you're like, the race is the race. The race is it now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Are you a Strava
and you,
snob? Like I'm so bad. Like I'll look at people's runs sometimes and like I'm like, yeah, that's a great pace. You ran really well. And like you just left your race though on whatever route you just did because your heart rate's at a zone 5, and you didn't have to do that. I don't know. I'm a Strava snob
yeah.
sometimes when it comes to that.
Oh yeah. I love to analyze people's training. And then I got this year really into doing the free trail fantasy, which is basically where you get to just analyze people's training and how they're going to perform. But yeah, I guess to that point, like Helen Mino Faulkner, she runs easy and she makes fun of herself for that. And she is freaking fast.
Dude, it works for her. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing athlete. Like,
well, it's science, but
science
yeah.
is
yeah.
a crazy thing. I mean, well, that's the thing. You start to analyze people's stuff and like most of the people at the top of the sport aren't going, stupid hard all the time. Like it doesn't, it's just not good for longevity,
Well, yeah. And I think there's psychology involved, so they probably don't have like this ego or insecurity that they need to prove it on their easy runs. But there's also like, yes, science. You actually like build better mitochondria and everything when you run easy. My coach used to actually do this thing, my high school coach, if like he would like hide. So we'd have these like long endurance, like 2 hour roller skis or runs, and he would hide in the bushes and then like pop out randomly somewhere and then lactate test us. And if our lactate was too high, like above 2 millimoles, I think, I'm like sort of fuzzy on the exact details, we would get in trouble. And like, because you were going too hard, because above that you're in like this dead zone where you're like in between your threshold and your easy, so you're not actually benefiting or growing, and you're just like getting really good at this but not actually raising your ceiling and not building your base. And I feel like he put so much energy into that, and I got not yelled at, but I got reprimanded like enough to be like, it clearly mattered. So like I run easy when it's easy.
That coach sounds amazing.
And then I'm ready. He's seriously so great. Yes.
Honestly, like
Yeah.
sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I wish I had a coach to yell at me. Like my coach is a very nice person. You probably know him, but like, yeah, super nice dude. And like sometimes I'm like, dude, you got to go a little harder, man. Just like, yeah, I'm not afraid of tough love. You got to tell me like, you really shit the bed at this. Like sometimes you got to just be honest, you know. At least that's how.
Yeah,
that's
true.
You know.
I mean, we were like high school kids,
yeah,
so like there's like
a
little different. Yeah.
I'd be terrified. Like, oh my God. That's funny.
Well, or we were probably being little shitheads. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's when you're a high school kid, it's like, I don't know. I think back to like my high school days and it's like, yeah, sports were important, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have I think discipline is probably the right word. The discipline to, you know, if everybody's going hard, especially when you're all young, like you all want to keep up with each other. So it's, you know, that makes it interesting. But
right.
Yeah.
Which I think is where he would then like have hard numbers.
Yeah.
To be. But I also learned like some things. We did a lot of training camps like up in Glacier National Park, and like those were some formative things where I'd like we had to be in groups of at least 3 or more, because that's like big enough to scare the grizzly bears away. And I'm such a like competitive idiot at that age that I would start with the boys and then I would bonk at like 3 hours in, and then I'm like barely keeping up. But also like, well, I have to keep up so the grizzlies don't kill me. And like I should have just been chiller, like, which I would get, yeah, like learning lessons.
You added the animal component into it, so it's like that's a whole nother challenge at that point. You had made it harder.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit and go back to your season this year with Broken Arrow. I'm just gonna ask you, like, was the goal to, because it seems like a different race from your style. I read your Strava write up on it. Obviously, you said a lot more running, just a different style of racing that you normally do. Was the original goal going on, like, did you want to try to get like a Team USA spot? Was it more so just to mix it up with some of the best competition in the country? Like, what was the goal for it?
Gosh, I think there was a lot of, I'd always wanted to check out Broken Arrow because like so many people speak so highly of it. And then, yeah, being competitive, I'm definitely drawn to competing in competitive races that are like building and going somewhere. And so like Broken Arrow did have the option for qualifying for world champs. And then just like actually being competitive. Because I think like you can go win some like backyard 50K, but it doesn't push you the same. And I'm all into being pushed and challenged, and sort of like, yeah. So I think those are the reasons I was like drawn to it. I think like most people, like, of course, qualifying for worlds would have been sick. I didn't think, given my ski season, I was not necessarily set up for that at all. And that was not my priority. But the world's course, I think, fit very well into my strengths. Basically Speedgoat, but more, you know? But yeah. And then I probably will sign up for it again. But I think it's a thing that I've been like trying to figure out, is just like running and racing more. Even with my skiing, because it's like, it is hard. I just don't get to race that much. So if I have like a bad race, but I only race like 2 or 3 times a year, it's just sort of not quite it's rougher than I feel like runners who are running year round. They can have a bad race, but they have 5 or 6 races that year. It's trying to run more races, and that's like at a good time for it, where maybe I can like switch into running enough. Which in the past I've had like less than a month to get ready for Speedgoat, and that's worked out. I think this year was like special in that like I'm sort of dealing with this like nerve like bulging disc thing in my back. Conveniently doesn't hurt me skiing, but that like hurt me in that race. And then I was so tired. And I like, in hindsight, totally understand why I was so tired. But yeah, I don't know. That was like a long-winded going in a lot of directions.
No. I appreciate it. It's always interesting. I mean, like, I don't know. Like Broken Arrow to me is such a different type of race than something like a Speedgoat, just because like I think it's stupid runnable. I mean, yes, there's a lot of vertical and 27 miles, 26 miles. It's like 8,000, 9,000 feet, but I don't think you're hiking that much, or at least I don't recall that.
No,
Yeah, I think it's very runnable. So
no, I couldn't agree more.
yeah,
I got all excited.
I like Broken Arrow,
most of you,
but I don't classify it really as a sky race. But
no, all the good running, or take that back. That's like my perspective coming in. The good like verti races, they're Speedgoat, and then you have to go to Europe.
Yeah. Well, I got
maybe the Minotaur in Canada,
that's
but like
a solid race. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you this. I did some research because I know, like I said, you like you've said, you live in Little Cottonwood Canyon. I've never seen you on a start list for a Cirque Series race, and I feel like you got to do one at least this year.
No, I did one.
Oh, did you? Okay. I looked.
Yes,
did you
I
do
did.
Sun Valley? Is that what it was? No.
No, I did it years ago when Katie Scheid used to live here.
Okay, in Alta.
Yeah, exactly. And she won and I was third. I was like sick or something. I did not feel good, but still, like, I'm on the podium with Katie Scheid. That was like before she was super fast, but yeah, I've done one, I guess.
All right.
I actually had the intention of doing it this year, but then yeah, there's so many races. It's so hard to do it all, you know?
I know. I don't know. I was pressing a little bit. Big fan of the, obviously we're, kind of a short stuff podcast. So that's why I was like, you know what? Cirque Series race, especially because you live at the base of like two of the best of their races,
Yeah. And then there's another one in Brighton. So great.
They got rid of it. I think it's coming back. I don't know. I've heard maybe it comes back. Dude, that's a stupid hard course. I don't know. Like, have you ever run that Wolverine Cirque? That thing is, I thought it was too technical. Like, I was like, wow, this is really hard to go fast on. The whole Millicent scramble, and then that was a challenging course.
And then you go over to Sunnyside, or Sun Peak, or Sunrise, whatever that peak is called.
That. Yeah, I was suffering. It was horrible.
Yeah,
but it was fun. While it's fun after the fact.
Yeah,
but yeah.
No, Julian's done a good job making like mountain running.
Yes.
Races.
Yeah, I feel like that's the closest thing to like mini sky running that we get in the lower 48, which is cool. So
completely.
Yeah. How's the nerve stuff? Are you like kind of on the other side of that now, or I've gone through nerve injuries myself. I'm on the backside of one now from last summer, and the reason I ask is because it's like the worst thing possible. I hate the nerve stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to talk more after. I'd love to learn what. I'm learning a lot. I think it's good to slow down. For me, I did have a very big winter, so I think I've also just took me a while to recover from that. But I am like learning new habits and routines, and I basically just have like a pretty like crooked hips or like something. So like hiking is fine, but running hurts me, and I'm sort of coming to this place where I'm like, running is hard for me because I sort of just use one leg. So I'm like, I do my little core exercises every single day, one day off. Just sort of like, slowing down and doing that sort of stuff.
That's exactly what I had, actually. Well, I don't know if similar stuff where like short ground contact worked fine for hiking. Like I could go do the incline and that wouldn't bother me. But anytime you open up your stride on like the track or like actually anything running wise, it's like the shooting pain in your hip or like adductor I've had. It's hips. Honestly, for me, what I figured out was that like I just had really weak and terrible hips. And as soon as I started working on the hips, like everything started like working again constant, like pretty quickly. So
sweet. Okay. Yeah. I think it's been a little tricky for me because I've like it's also great to hear. I love hearing success stories from this because I get demoralized sometimes, but yeah, like it's been a little hard because like the nerve I think is like deactivating or like inhibiting me from using some of my muscles. So like learning how to like activate those in ways that aren't hurting, because I just have this like shooting pain all the way down to the bottom of my foot.
Oh, so yours is like more sciatic then, or Well, the thing is, like, I don't know. And I'll preface this with the audience. Not a doctor, not a PT. I don't know. I'm an idiot. But from what I've known, because I have a lot of PT friends, the like the fascia from your hip flexors and in the back in your hips and stuff like that, that stuff's like super complicated. And if like anything's not moving correctly with like hip flexion and internal and external hip rotation, like that's when it all gets screwed up. And like that's what I had, where like my hips just got so tight and I became so quad dominant and I wasn't just engaging the glutes. Because of that, it would cause for me specifically, like similar stuff, not all the way down the leg, but mine was like I couldn't put any pressure on one leg. I mean, I thought for the longest time I had like a sacral stress fracture because of it, because it was such bad pronounced like pain in the back of my hip, like on that, like right on top of the SI joint, and then like really into my abductor and pelvis area. And it took me months to figure it out and like lots of work. But yeah, it's a lot of it's just like hip strength, at least for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody's got it.
No, I think it's the same with me too. It's just like figuring out those exercises, and like a lot of it is like my core too, and like not, I don't know. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I do think I'm going somewhere, and it's been going to so many different PTs and then finally finding one that like actually critically thinks, instead of just like sticking me in the algorithm and being like, okay, do these squats. And you're like, come back to them 5 months later and you're like, so I've done the squats, nothing's getting better. You're like, you just need to do it longer. And you're like,
No.
So it's been a process, but and I've actually gotten some really good like resources and help from other female runners, or just like people in general, but learning a lot.
It's too bad Jimmy Picard doesn't live in the Wasatch anymore. He's like one of the, I mean, outside of like Sean Rimmer, who I work with in the Springs, like Jimmy Picard's like one of the best PTs for running. Like I would say world class. He moved to the East Coast, but that guy's awesome. Yeah. There's some good, I mean, you just got to find the PT that knows running and knows like movement. And I think that's that's the hardest thing to do, is to find someone that understands that. But
yeah. And like critical, my PT is like skier runner, and he's genuinely so great. But he critically thinks, because I don't think I fall into the natural like algorithm. So then he's like breaking it down. And
well, it's such a frustrating thing too, because it's like, not to go off on a tangent, but like, you know, so you think, okay, it would almost be easier if I like had I don't want to say an actual injury, but okay, maybe I tore a tendon or a break or a stress fracture. When it comes to nerve stuff, it's so complicated that like I'd almost rather just have something that's more black and white. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more. I'd much rather, if I broke my tibia, I'd be better by now.
Dude.
Long ago. And you can see it on the x-ray, and then you can see when it heals.
Yeah, and you know what to do. Yeah, it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, the nerve stuff, I lost pretty much my whole season to it last year. And and I feel so bad for any runners going through it, because it's like, dude, the nerve stuff is not fun. Have you tried, I don't know if it's like, it's funny, I was in the Northeast this year and I didn't realize it wasn't legal in the Northeast, or like New York where I was staying, but what is it, the dry needling. I've done a bunch of that actually has helped like a little bit. I don't know if it's like pseudoscience or if it actually works, but that has helped calm, like now I'm good, knock on wood, but like when I was going through the issue that I was going through, like that actually helped a little bit. But I don't know.
No, I have done that. My PT does that, and he says there's like a lot of research that shows that it is beneficial when paired with like proper rehab activities and stuff. So it's like very intentional on like working on doing my exercises plus like chilling my muscles out. Because it basically just is like it just is basically like poking and stimulating that muscle. That's all to like tell your body to be like, yo, heal me and chill out.
So you know what, the other thing too, are you cold plunge person? This sounds so bro science.
No,
love the cold plunge, and that actually helped me a ton
for your nerves.
I mean, I think it calmed the muscles down, like in my legs, and or at least the hips, got that to like relax a little bit. I do the cold plunge every day for like 5 to 10 minutes, because I don't know if it actually does anything, but like at least mentally I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm checking all the boxes here. So yeah.
Well, I will say for you, if it feels good, it probably is good. Yeah. For me, it just makes me shiver the rest of the day, and I'm like, that was not beneficial.
It's rough. It's rough.
I support you.
Thank you. I do want to switch. One thing, my friend would not forgive me if I didn't ask you about this. I got to ask you about the shooting gallery. If you got 5 minutes to talk about it, because I feel like that's such a big, important aspect of you as an athlete, and we can't just gloss over that. So can you talk a little bit about the shooting gallery?
Yeah, so the shooting gallery is the guidebook to steep skiing in the Wasatch Range, written by Andrew McLean. And so basically it has like a range of different lines. There's like some mellower, easier, beginnerish terrain of mountaineering, shorter lines, not super exposed. Some really iconic ones that go off like the top of summits of some of the biggest peaks around here. And then some really contrived ones that are like skiing down an ice climbing route or traversing this little ribbon of snow on something. Um, but all in all, it's like 93 lines that sort of take you throughout the Wasatch. And so I actually have this like, well, I had thought about this idea for a while of like, I've enjoyed skiing different lines. As a Wasatch skier, you sort of like have the book and you sort of look at it when it's like game on for backcountry skiing of like, ooh, what should I ski? And, you know, you're sort of like excited or it gives you direction and has sort of been formative in my like backcountry skiing career. And so I'd always sort of been like curious with my little background of Nordic skiing and ultra trail running of like, I love big days and I love big back to back to back days. So I was like curious on how fast can you ski the entire book. So I'd had this idea for a while and purely as like a challenge, like it so excites me as this challenge of what is possible for me. Had this idea for a while. And then this last December, Cody Townsend, who's professional skier and a really good friend and mentor to me, he was like, you got to just do that idea. It's like so good, Mally, do it. Because I'd been waiting for the perfect season. And then I realized that like Cody told me this, like the perfect season's never going to happen. I'm like, oh, very good point. It's whatever, I mean, right. It's whatever you think's perfect. So this last winter I decided I was going to do it. It really was not lining up so well in the Wasatch, pretty bad, weak snow structure, a lot of avalanches. So I just had to like wait longer and longer. But I think March 12th, I worked my 2 shifts at I work as a nurse. So I worked my shifts at the hospital and then I started on March 12th. And then I just sort of went all in on that, skiing every day I could. Basically storm days were off days. And otherwise I didn't take rest days and I was trying to ski at least 2 lines a day, doing a lot of these link ups and then like strategy of like, if I was going into a drainage, I was skiing everything in that drainage before I went home because that was just like more efficient. And I mean, it didn't always work out. Like, so I definitely, but that was the idea. Skied with a lot of different ski partners throughout it all. And it's a lot of strategy of like analyzing the snow and the weather and like when to ski different lines, low elevation lines I was trying to hit first, saving the higher elevation lines. And yeah, I finished it in 47 days. So the previous fastest time was by Mark Hammond, professional ultra runner. Yeah. He did it in a season, so in 5 months. And then the previous fastest female time was 5 years. But I would say it's like an asterisk because no one had really gone into it looking at it that way. They had gone into it to complete the book, not to like see how fast they could do it all. So it was just like a new way of looking at it. But a really big challenge that was like, I learned so much from it and I was so prepared and expecting all this, like calculating out the amount of vertical feet. And in total, I think it was just over 300,000 vertical feet that I skied in these 47 days. And I was so like calculating all of that and just sort of like, okay, I can do that. I can put in these massive weeks. And then the mental piece was what absolutely like was exhausting because I was just like always in high consequence avalanche terrain. A lot of these lines are like pretty committing over cliffs and exposure. And then like always planning what I was going to do next and figuring out weather and just like constantly that I did start to get pretty mentally fatigued, but physically I kept feeling good. And I think to a point where I started feeling like better, like my body adapted physically.
Interesting.
Like my last day I skied one line with Adam Loomis and we were just like chatting the whole way up. And I'm sure Adam was going like slower than his like total normal pace, but like I don't think he was slowing down a ton for me like that. I felt good. And yeah, I don't know. That was it was a lot of fun. So now I'm doing a YouTube series. So it's going to be a 10-part YouTube series coming out of my YouTube. I'm at episode 4, but every 2 weeks I launch a new episode, just recounting the whole experience and everything.
So cool. I mean, I've got a few questions to ask off this as well. Like, one, it's you're. I mean, we'll link in the show notes so listeners can follow along and subscribe and tune in. But like, how much of a pain in the ass was it to like get more so like record stuff while you're doing this hard effort and get like video?
Wow, what a good question. Probably because your podcast, you like understand
Oh
this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so much work. You're like, I just want to ski, and I was like the audio engineer technically. So I'd like be giving everyone their little microphones and like syncing it on my phone, and it's like freaking 3 a.m. and I'm on day whatever. And then of course the sync isn't happening, or you're like SD card is wrong, and you're like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and then but filming was really easy. Well, easy relatively. It's just GoPro and like iPhones. Just sort of had like decided that like I mean the new iPhone is just so
It's pretty
good.
legit.
Same with the GoPro.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I have enough GoPros that I would just like give GoPros to my friends and they're all in the right settings, and then like that meant I had the SD cards and batteries all dialed, and then just film with your iPhone on horizontal. And recognizing too, I feel like on YouTube / in this time and age with like media, and as we were talking about influencers before and stuff, people like care for authenticity, and they don't care for these like super cinematic shots and all that. Like those are nice to sort of give you a place in time, but like in the end people like love to just see you and what you're doing, and like the rawness of it I think is actually really appreciated on YouTube.
So cool. Yeah, like I said, we'll link it in the show notes so folks can follow along. And like I said, I just have a really strong appreciation for it, not just because it's an insanely difficult effort, but also like it's a pain in the ass to get all that stuff and put it all together and then cut it. And then I'm sure you have hundreds of hours of like stuff too to like narrow down and then figure out, is this a good shot? Does this fit? Does this work? Yeah, it's not my finer stuff trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah. I am working with an editor that I have a very good relationship with. So he's like better at it. In like editing world, we call it like killing your babies, where you have to like cut so many shots that you're like, that's so good. But you get good at like, what's the bigger story, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah. Or there's like plenty of times where I'm like, oh, nice. I don't know. You mess up some shots. So you're like, oh, we just don't have that now. But
So true.
it's working.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Mali, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a great conversation. Hopefully the first of many. I'm really excited to see, what you're able to do with this 2026 year, and, hopefully the snow falls and, things work out. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the pod, and thanks so much for a conversation.
Yeah. Right back at you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing the nerve stuff.
Oh yeah.
Too.
We can talk more about that offline. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we're